It's a weekend edition of the show right here on Channels Television. Of course, it's called The Morning Brief, and I'm Jeffrey Uzama.
Friday is upon us, finally. I know that a lot of people have been waiting for this day, but it is here. But guess what? We'll ensure that you have the very best of a start to your day. I'm Kayode Kikilo, and we're live for you in Lagos.
Our eyes are everywhere, including the Olympics, where, yesterday, we had a bit of a heartbreak. You know, we're all hopeful. You remember we're talking to
Jeffrey,
Austin?
3 heartbreaks.
Okay. I just want to stay with, I just want to make sure that 3 of them is a bunch of, so we had 3 of them in the long jump out of about 12 contestants in that particular exercise. So we're quite hopeful. Austin was here, although he said we should not put them under any pressure.
Right.
Because you can't prepare for an Olympics that takes 4 years for others. Some people take 9 years, and then you want to get things done in about 2 weeks. It will never work. But it just says for us to have just a bit of a mathematical permutation. If we have 3 people out of 12,
that's 25%.
Yeah,
that's 1 to 4.
Yes, at least we should be on that podium. We were really hopeful for our girls who have really done us proud, but sadly we couldn't get to that. I was just looking and say, wow, what's going on? But you know, it's what it is. But we're grateful for their service. We always thank them for representing Nigeria as far as the Olympics is concerned. So it's now time to put our acts together to make sure that we see these failures and see what we can do to better the fortunes of our country when it comes to international stage like the Olympics.
Absolutely. So to all of the ladies from Essa Brume to Usoro and the third lady, I'll remember her name. We'd like to say thank you. Absolutely. You could see Essa, she was praying at some point. You know, it was a lot of emotions for her. And you imagine that there are scores of thousands of people in a stadium, right? All eyes on you, and you have to perform as well, and you're performing against some of the best. I think the German lady had records from, you know, years ago. So it was a lot of pressure, but she still delivered. She ended up being 5th on the rating. So big ups to you guys. Thank you for representing Nigeria and Nigerians as well, and for showing that there's great things, or there are great things in Nigeria. But Jeffrey, you know, while all of that was playing out on the track, or I say on the field generally, there was another conversation happening in another arena, like a velodrome, and it concerned Nigeria's only cyclists at the Olympics. And this matter trended on X yesterday for quite some time. The name of that Nigeria's cyclist, Essa Kweseraye, and she put out a tweet yesterday, Jeffrey, and you know, that tweet which you see right there got a lot of people talking. So we'll give you all of the sides to this, and this is what she says. She said that due to the short notice of her competing at the Keirin and sprint, she had no bicycle to race with on the track.
And then she said, in the spirit of sportsmanship, the German team, forget how it's pronounced, it's a long name there, came to my rescue by offering me a bicycle. She said, thank you. So when Nigerians saw this, they said, oh, Nigerian, go to embarrass us again. We had to borrow this motorcycle. Okay, not bicycle. Yeah. It's a kind of sports bike. Let's leave it at that.
But that's the minister's response.
The minister has responded. Yeah. What did the minister say?
There you go. So the Minister of Sports put out a tweet to that, because a lot of Nigerians were like, come on, what's going on? So he says, well, his attention was called to that post by Essa. And after reading the post and some follow-up comments, he says he swung into action. Now, he says that Essa's post seems to have been grossly misunderstood, perhaps also because it didn't give, you know, proper context to the matter in perspective. Quite a lengthy post, Jeffrey, but we'll try to walk you through so we don't miss anything in that post. It goes on to say that.
It's had been issued. Team Nigeria qualified for one road race in cycling and prepared for it in terms of training and appropriate competition equipment. Team Nigeria was fully prepared for this road race until 2 weeks ago, after the cycling team with the rest of Team Nigeria had already left for the Olympics. That a communication from the Union Cyclists International was received, reallocating additional slots to the Cyclist Federation of Nigeria. That's Keirin and individual sprint.
Absolutely. So essentially what the minister was saying, that this reallocation, yes, was due to the disqualification of a country, and this left Nigeria as the next eligible to make the list of qualified countries to compete. He says, unfortunately, this additional slot required the use of a different competition equipment in terms of biking. So he says that for this new race, a very special equipment is used. It will take months to have it delivered after ordering and making
This is specifically approved for the game, and Nigeria doesn't have it.
So long story short, he's saying that after they left for the Olympics, Nigeria, another competition or another slot was open for Nigeria.
Because the country was disqualified.
Exactly. And he says that they weren't able to get the special equipment for that competition on time, which is why you had Canyon and SRAM Racing essentially we're still borrowing, Jeffrey, right?
At the
or
end
allowing her to use that bicycle. But that's a side of the
I'm
ministry.
wondering, his excuse or whatever it is that he said seemed tenable, but how did every other person have that particular bike? Maybe in their store, or that's just to talk about the fact that we need to get our acts together at the end of the day, because the Germans, they have it. We didn't have it because of the new details that he provided in his tweets. So we had to go further to make sure we get it by borrowing. So,
but essentially, what he was trying to say was that's the minister saying that it's a specialized equipment. What they took was for the one they were originally qualified for. But when things changed, it would take a while to order. You know, they say it's not like the usual bicycle you find.
I'm just saying, if we're using microphones, we should have as many microphones as possible.
But,
you may never know.
But would you take the... And this is just a debate that is open to everybody. Will you take the extra equipment that you obviously do not need?
Now she
extra
needs
luggage.
Now she needs that extra equipment. Is she even prepared to use that kind of extra equipment?
Well, she'll go for it, absolutely.
So that's what I'm saying. At the end of the day, this is an extra equipment that she needed that we did not have. And now she is using that. So the first question to ask her, can you use this extra equipment to the best of your ability?
Well, the jury's out there. Let us know what you think about this. But I wanted to start off with that because it trended a lot yesterday.
So at the end of the day, whatever it is, what we're looking for is just a medal. Whether we borrow bike or we borrow boats, whatever it is we want to borrow, we really don't care. Yes, national pride, sovereignty, and all of that comes to play. But all of that can be forgotten if we get just a medal. If we just get a medal, just get a medal. Get us a medal. I know, how can we be borrowing things? Yes, we are borrowed now. So can we move on now to getting that medal?
Well, we need to also commend the SS Club in Europe, which came through, and that German-owned company for lending SA the bike. So it's a track bike, essentially, for that use. So today, she's actually going to be competing.
She's going to be racing today.
So all the best to SA, and others will be walking you through.
I hope Germans are not in that. Are they in the race too?
Well, Jeffrey.
I can imagine I'm biking. I say, I borrow you bike.
No,
slow
so
it
it's
down.
a German-owned company.
Okay, I'm just saying.
SS Club. So,
I understand, but it was produced in Germany. So I'm imagining you're German, I'm Nigerian. Your country that produces bike borrowed me the bike.
Jeffrey, you're overthinking. Let's just race.
We're just trying to play around this.
Absolutely.
But at the end of the day, we thank everybody that came through for us.
Yeah.
And we thank the minister for that clarification. And we hope this could be a motivation, some sort of, for SA to, make us proud, because we're looking forward to a medal. But as Austin Okonakman, our correspondent, a sports anchor, will say, no pressure. So no pressure. But that is not all we're talking about today on the program. So let's bring you up to speed. We all woke up to the news of a raid on the national headquarters of the Nigeria Labour Congress by security operatives slightly over a day ago. What was hidden at the Labour House that they were looking for? We do not know. What were they searching for? What did they find? How does this affect our international image with Workers' Hub now a scene of concern? The comrades will have their say today on the program.
Absolutely. So we'll try to unravel that issue. But that's not all. Section 22 of Nigeria's constitution empowers journalists to, on behalf of citizens, hold the powerful to account at all times. But we've seen this solemn and sometimes dangerous responsibility leading to all sorts of harassment, intimidation, incarceration, and even fatalities, leaving a scare on the nation's conscience and a claim to press freedom. So today, we bring the recent incidents, particularly with End Bad Governance protests, into focus.
Absolutely. And then from there, we take to the softer side of things. Guess where we're going to? The Garden City of Port Harcourt. When River State was christened the treasure base of the nation, the framers perhaps thought of more of the abundant natural resources like crude oil. But beyond and above that, and the absurdity of its recent politics, is a city replete with incredible creatives and entertainers. Remember, Burna Boy is from Port Harcourt, by the way. One of the shining lights in the comedy industry, K.O. Baba, is our guest on the show today.
Well, if we were to do like a roll call of celebrities and where they're from, Jeffrey will not leave this show. Will not leave this show.
No, Port Harcourt represents. Yeah.
But that's not all. You can be a part of this show. By the way, if you have celebrities from your side, let Jeffrey know that you also have your...
Two of us can do one day. Port Harcourt versus Ibadan. Let's begin to call movie.
Well, I represent quite a number of states in Nigeria, so that list will be
Let's stay within where you were born, or where you where you were raised.
It's a very tricky thing.
Where we were raised.
It's a very tricky thing. People have affiliations, either by marriage, by association, by birth.
Now, if I want to say that I'm from like 4 states,
there you go. I think that's the story of Nigeria.
I'll be from like 4 states at least.
So that's the number with which you can reach us on the show. If you have comments about the Olympics, about the end bad governance protest and the aftermath, or even if it's about where you're from or where you're residing and
the celebrities from where you're from,
send it in. We are big on your comments and your questions this morning. No calls, just questions. If you've got comments or if you've got videos of things happening around you, send them in.
Absolutely. So, hey, bring it on. Our job is to help you amplify. We call it a community show for a reason, because you and I, you and us, we're here to make sure our voices are heard. It's going to be a big one today on the program, but all of that will start off after we bring you our top stories. Join us again. Top on the brief this morning is that raid on the national headquarters of the Nigeria Labour Congress, by whom the union describes as heavily armed security personnel that stormed and raided their office. The operatives are said to have carried out the raid in the Labour House late at night. According to a statement by the union, the operatives, who were in police uniforms and T-shirts suspected to be from the DSS, broke in and ransacked the bookshop on the second floor, carting away hundreds of books and other publications. The statement explains how the invading troop claimed they were looking for seditious materials used for the End Bad Governance protest, an action the union sees as a new low, given that no permit for such raid was cited by Labour, and they are calling on them to leave their premises. In the meantime, the Department of State Services, DSS, has denied carrying out any of such raid at the Labour House in Abuja. The response follows the allegation by the statement of the union that some men in T-shirt accompanied the police to carry out that particular raid, a claim the secret police has denied. In a short message by the DSS spokesperson, Mr. Peter Afanaya informed journalists that DSS was not responsible for the late-night raid. That's according to the DSS. And now moving on from there, that is not the only reaction that's coming in. The Amnesty International also has responded to this particular incident that happened at the Labour House. Amnesty International, they say they've condemned the invasion at the Abuja headquarters of the International Nigeria Labour Congress by persons believed to be state-backed actors. A statement by the director of Amnesty International, Mr. Issa Sanusi, says the raid by security personnel undermines workers' right to organize, bargain collectively, and take industrial action. Amnesty International raises concern about the safety of NLC officials, stating that under international human rights law and standards, trade unions cannot be targeted for their participating activities. It explains how, under international human rights law, Nigeria has an obligation not only to respect the rights of union or the trade unions, but also to protect the rights from abuse. Okay, away from that, here in Lagos, Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, says the media has both rights and responsibility in his role as a fourth estate of the realm. He believes service to a country is key, even though the media is at liberty by law to hold government to account. As it reels out efforts of the Tinubu administration to reset the economy, Mr. Idris gave the remark when he had a sit-down with the chairman of Channels Media Group, Dr. John Momo, during his visit to Channels Television's global headquarters here in Lagos, accompanied by some presidential aides.
The media has to be free. The media has to operate in an environment that does not, limit their potential. We also know that the freedom that the media enjoys will also have to come with some responsibility. And issues of fake news, disinformation, and misinformation will always be there. And it's not just a Nigerian problem, it's a world problem. But I know that nobody will come to clean that more than the media itself. So there must be a self-regulating system in the media. Even as you do this task of holding government to account, which is your constitutional role that you are playing, it is also important that we know that our country comes first.
Well, in his response, Dr. Momo emphasizes the core values and principles guiding news production at Channels Television.
Channels is an organization that is based on professionalism. What we do here is to make sure that we produce programs that are well put together and that will challenge the curiosity of our viewers and make sure that they use the information that we provide to impact on their lives. And one of the things that we don't shy away from doing, and we always stress, is the fact that we must represent all sides to an issue. We will continue to report government and government activities, but we also have the duty to let government know if there are areas where they have to do more, and if there are areas where they are failing. And we try to bring people from both sides of the divide.
And away from that, Governor Obasani of Kaduna State has assured that justice will be served for the teenager who was killed by a soldier in Samaru area of Zaria and Kaduna State on Tuesday. The teenager Ismail Mohammed was shot to death when troops of the Nigerian Army attempted to disperse hoodlums during Tuesday's protest in Samaru. The State Commissioner for Internal Security and Home Affairs, Mr. Samuel Aruwan, who led the delegation and heads of security agencies to condole with the family of the teenager, expressed the governor's deep pain over the unfortunate incident and assured to leave no stone unturned to ensure justice is served over the death of the young boy. In the meantime, the Minister of Women Affairs, Mrs. Uju Kennedy-Oneye, on Thursday disrupted an event which was held without the ministry's approval. Ms. Uju Kennedy-Oneye says the organizers of the Abuja event have been taken into custody by the Department of State Services for what she considers alleged impersonation of the ministry. According to her, she got wind of the event that some group of people were using the name of the ministry for some unscrupulous activities, and getting this information, she stormed the alleged fraudulent event conducted in the ministry's name, where she insisted that the program cannot go on and the ministry should not be taken for granted. Let's now talk business. Foreign exchange inflows into Nigeria have surged, reaching $25.4 billion between January and June, a 55% increase compared to the same period last year. That's according to the Central Bank of Nigeria. The rise is due largely to the increased capital importation, which hit $6 billion in June 2024, and recorded inflows from diaspora remittances. The CBN says its policies are boosting markets' confidence as the bank continues to address foreign exchange demands, including a $876 million auction to 26 banks on Tuesday. And the Americas get our attention on the international scene with Donald Trump and Kamala Harris agreeing to a 10th of September 10 debate on ABC, setting up the first showdown between the candidates ahead of November polls. Earlier, former U.S. President Donald Trump held a news conference at his Mar-a-Lago residence in Palm Beach, Florida. The former U.S. president says he wants to debate Harris multiple times, and he had agreed to 3 dates in September, explaining how he's recovered from the wound to his ear after that assassination attempt on his life. Let's also tell you about the Leslie Tebogo, who say an Olympic medal will not just be for Botswana, but the continent of Africa, which he duly delivered to by becoming the first African to be crowned 200 meters Olympic champion. The 21-year-old produced a stunning run in Paris to leave pre-race favorite Noël trailing in third. In fact, Tebogo is the only second athlete from Africa to even win a medal in 200 meters. Namibian Frankie Fredericks had blazed the way for Tebogo by winning the second of his 2 silver in Atlanta 1996. Tebogo set an African record of 19.46 seconds in the Stade de France to put the cherry on the cake. Well, congratulations to him, and those are the stories we've been tracking for you in the last 24 hours. Will shape part of our conversation for the rest of today. Kayode joins me as we bring you up to speed with what you have been talking about, say, in the last 24 hours as well.
Oh, absolutely. And you can tell that Nigerians are big on anything that has to do with the nation. You know, you have to give it to Nigerians on the love and the passion for their country. But what have you been talking about this time around? Well, let's start off with the big one around Nigeria's oil sector. The NNPCL GMD has been speaking, Mr. Mele Kyari, and this time around he says that we all know what happens. It's been given some sort of cryptic messages that when he starts talking, then Nigerians will be shocked. He will uncover things, and naturally Nigerians are saying, can we just have these things said already? Why do we have to wait? Why are you giving us a lot of suspense? So take a look at what Jeremiah Adetunji has to say about this, because the NNPCL GMD was essentially decrying the impact of smuggling in the oil sector. So the question is, what is new? Well, this user, Jeremiah, says, who are the we? I don't know. So he says, tell us what is happening or what happens in the oil sector. Let us know. So what exactly is holding him back? Those are the questions Nigerians want answers to.
All right, it's not the only one talking. God, I Trust 101 says, I see people don't know the people behind the smuggling.
So, and I think that it's clear. Even the Minister of Information had spoken about, you know, what was before subsidy was removed, how Nigeria used to get, you know, petrol in, and it was too much for us to consume. And he says that the petrol found its way to other countries, neighboring countries. So questions Nigerians have been asking is, who are the people responsible for that? As a nation with the power of a state, you can't tell us that you're not able to identify and prosecute those people. This next user, Abdul Ahmad Kumo, says everything will show itself by itself with time. I imagine that's what you want to say. But, you know, it's tricky relying on time. When we have people, we have institutions.
You know, at the end of the day, I think our job as journalists as well, and we try to do that job as much as possible. Nigerians are no longer impressed with policymakers, the government saying things, cryptic things, you know, saying, we will say it, we're going to get it done. Nobody's even impressed by an investigation. We engaged the minister the other day, who was saying he's still looking for the reports. Nigerians don't care anymore. Nigerians just want, get it done. We can see the result of the corruption, yet we can't find the, what do you call it, the culprits.
Those responsible.
Those responsible. We see that people scammed us during subsidy. Are they in jail? Are they being prosecuted? So all of this is just story. When I was growing up in the city of Port Harcourt, they say story for the gods. Okay, it's even Lagos, story for the gods.
There you go.
Nigerians don't want to hear all these stories. Say it. We want people to be prosecuted. We want people to be in jail. Sure. That is when Nigeria will take anybody serious. Else, if you like start an investigation right now, no matter how robust it is, Nigerians will naturally say, oh, it will go the same way. Will you blame them? We can reel out all the investigations that has been done in this country. What has happened?
So let's do things differently.
Let's go to the next one.
Yeah.
He has said again that the refinery, Ipman is saying that the refinery will meet August deadline with full production.
So they're backing what the NNPCL had earlier said. When he said, well, he wasn't lying, in case people were thinking he was lying about the deadline of August for Port Harcourt refinery.
No, it's fair to have assumed that he's lying because he has said it many times and he did not do it. So that's why he had to say, I'm not lying. So you better not lie this time, Mr. Mele Kyari. So everybody's looking at you. So get it done, sir. We will applaud you if you get it done. So Nigeria, my country, says, I love Global. We will hold him accountable for his words. If Dangote Refinery and the other refineries start working, it will really help stabilize Nigeria's economy.
Well, X.5441 is coming from a place of what some might say is pessimism. Saying, if it is not realizable, don't say it, please. Just show Nigerians have started working. No too much promise, I beg. But maybe not pessimism, but what they have seen over time.
Yeah.
So don't promise us.
If you say something
and not deliver,
and you didn't do it, you lied.
Absolutely.
Or you didn't meet up.
So,
in his words, July 2019, within the lifetime of this administration, the refineries will come upstream and work. This is 2024. They have not come. You remember we had from the minister, Minister of Petroleum, State Petroleum. They were moving it from Timmy Silva down to Lokpobri, down to himself, and now so. We have seen this. So just get it. What we're saying at the end of the day is just get it done. Thank you, sir. What's the next one?
Well, the next one, Jeffrey, is from Stanley Chika. Still on this, saying that that's what they said last year, December, which the president will try and make it work this time around. Meanwhile, August is remaining few days to finish. Let me just properly give you where we are at in August. This is August the 9th.
It's a long way to go.
We have 31 days in August.
So that means we have 20-something?
Yeah.
About
so we have
22?
Yeah, 22 days.
22 more days. Yeah. All right, so Chikezie says, we're tired of deadlines, see? Plus, just announced to us that you have started production and distribution. That is all we want to hear, not deadline, which has always been dead on arrival. Come on, man.
There you go. So, in fact, let us know when we bought it already and tell us, oh, do you know that petrol you just bought is from Port Harcourt Refinery? I think
so. Let us contextualize it for Mr. Melekiari and everybody who is at the forefront of this.
The ministers.
Everybody. But he is the GCEO, so he's the operational man.
But it is owned by the government.
Yeah, it's owned by all of us.
So from the Minister of Petroleum, which is the president.
There are three ministers.
Exactly. So the state oil, state
there's Lokpobri,
gas,
there's Ekperikpe of gas.
And then the NNPCL. And
all of these gentlemen. So what we want to see, sirs, please, from the president to everybody, we don't want to hear that there is production going on. We want to see those tankers leave Port Harcourt refineries, take petrol or PMS as we call it to filling station, and we buy and say this one was refined from Port Harcourt refinery. That is when Nigerians will be. Any other technical term will not make no sense to nobody. This is free advice.
Well, speaking of ministers, Jeffrey, something played out in the nation's capital, Abuja, with a different minister entirely, the Minister of Women Affairs, Uju Ohanenye, who disrupted an event and ordered the arrest of the organizer for alleged impersonation. So we'd like you to just watch this, what played out, some of the things she said, and we'll give you some more to this one. Looks like an action movie, by the way.
Did not plan this. And the lady have arrested her. Right now, she's with DSS because she put up this. After we wrote where we are cancelling, the president approved that we should cancel until further notice. She still went ahead to print this thing. This is impersonation. And anyone, as far as this thing is printed and was given out there, that makes it a fraud. So that's why I'm standing here to explain this to everyone. She has been arrested. So that brings, she should have reorganized herself, used her name to make the invitation, and used her name to do this, not to use Federal Minister of Women Affairs. I can't allow this program to move on. I'm sorry about it. I'm going to get in police because this is pure impersonation and the president is not happy about it. I'm saying it, let the media cover it. I don't care. You don't do this. You don't take the ministry for granted. For what?
Well, like scenes from an action movie. It just came, disrupted the event. And
as I'm watching, I think there's more to that than what we saw.
Absolutely.
That's what we don't have. That's information we don't have. But the information we have is that apparently she alleges that they are using the ministry's name to organize that event without the ministry's approval. And she got wind of it and she stormed the place. to say, look, I don't care whether the media is here. You cannot take the ministry for granted. This event will not go on. That's all we know to a large extent for now.
Jeffrey, it's quite interesting because on the 7th of May, 2024, that's just a few months ago, the minister met with the person.
The individual involved.
Yes,
the lady who is with the DSS.
Yes, because she actually put up an image, saying that this is fake. So if you could just check the name of the organizer in quote, you realize that in May, the minister met with her in her office and put out a tweet saying that, you know what, they want to work together. She played host to her to improve the lots of Nigerian women. That was in May, Jeffrey. So in fact, they took pictures together, all smiling, right? And it's right there on X. You can go there right now.
That's why I'm saying that there is something that we don't know. But let's speak to what we have seen and what we know.
Particularly what you are saying.
And what you are saying. And this is coming from Daniel Boala. He said, with all due respect, the Honorable Minister has no business storming the place to play act of drama. She could have simply advised the law enforcement personnel about the alleged impersonation, and they will go and disrupt the meeting and make arrests when necessary. There's a reason why ministers are called honorable ministers. This is clearly a case of law of diminishing return playing out here. Wow,
okay.
Those are strong words, man.
Coming from someone you describe as a friend of the president.
Yeah, he's a friend of the president.
To a member of the president's cabinet.
Yeah.
But take a look at what Ojubanire Kane says. It is a good one from the Honorable Minister of Women Affairs. There should be no reason for impersonation in a lawful country. But what we should dig deeper is what exactly happened from the all smiles in that image to the all, action movie treatment and arrest. What happened? We need to know.
Exactly, and this is from, I think it's Agbo, right? Agbo Chidi. She did the right thing. Impersonation is a serious offense. Her image is involved. So that is coming from Agbo.
There you have it. So again, they're missing lines in this whole documentation, okay? Whether they've been redacted or not, we need to know what exactly played out between May and August. So you have June and July. What happened exactly? Because from all smiles to that, we don't know. But moving on to, a sad situation that we saw playing out in the Ikeja area of Lagos State yesterday. Fire raised a mobile filling station. You know that filling station is quite close to the road that leads to Ikeja on the bridge. And we saw the fire. It was a huge fire. Thankfully, it was put out, but vehicles were destroyed, and we saw even bodily harm to people as well as a result of that. But Ade Akindele has his first one to say that, now we don't know the cause of this, right? But people have been talking naturally, saying transporters sometimes leave their vehicles running while buying fuel, leaving their passengers in the vehicle to buy fuel. A lot of ignorance. People don't treat fuel as combustible.
Oh boy, so that very particular incident. If we can have the next message on X. So if we can have the next message. Okay, this is from
Olamed
Dayo. It said Nigeria needs to be taught the fire safety protocols size.
There you go.
There you go.
And this one, if you'd seen the videos, this one caught my attention and I was concerned because what you saw was a lot of people pulling out their phones to record just meters away from the fire.
And anything can happen.
Anything can happen. It's a filling station, for crying out loud. There's lots of combustibles there. So this user adds his or her voice to that FK149 saying, there is an explosion. The first thing people do is to rush to the scene and start recording, not calling fire service. For people's safety, always is best to be far, or for people's safety, always best to be far away from scenes like this.
I don't know whether our humanity and our sense of community has just disappeared with the advent of technology. I really don't know. This is really sad to see that rather than do something, you just want to capture it, maybe and put it online and
for views,
for clickbait or for views or whatever it is that you want to call it.
Come on.
It doesn't make sense.
We are smarter than that. So
once you're not even a journalist in the first place.
Exactly.
When they call it citizen journalism.
Journalists take precaution.
Yes.
I remember when we were covering this explosion on the Tedola Bridge, just at the moment we got there was another explosion again. And I just thought about it that imagine there were lots of people scampering for safety. I mean, it almost turned to a stampede. So it's important to always maintain safe distance. You don't even have to be there. Let the fire department do their jobs. If it's a building collapse, let the emergency responders do their jobs. Because what you see again is that people crowd the roads and it's tough for emergency responders to do their job. So please, let us maintain decorum, Jeffrey.
All right. I think, well, at the end of the day, we will start our very first conversation. So I think the word is enough for everyone who will take it.
Yeah.
But what we've seen at the End Bad Governance protest that, happened a couple of days ago, I think day 10 is tomorrow. Today is day 9. We don't know where. I know that Port Harcourt, they protested, I think till yesterday or so, or 2 days ago. So there are some skeletal things happening across board. But one of the things we saw, one of the black spots, if you allow me to use that word, in this particular protest is a harassment of journalists who are doing their legitimate duty. They've been harassed by hoodlums, sometimes to the full glare of the law enforcement agency. That is the first conversation we'll be having just after this break. Join us again.
It's really becoming and rowdy right here. It's really becoming rowdy and violent right here.
Very worried sight. You could hear someone saying, turn off the camera. And that's just one of several incidents happening during the End Bad Governance protests. Non-state actors, hoodlums, thugs, area boys, harassing journalists, sometimes harming them bodily in their line of duty. And it leaves a very terrible taste in the mouth. So let's talk about this, because this is critical to democracy, the success of or otherwise of it. We have joining us on the program veteran journalist, Executive Director, International Press Center, IPC, Mr. Lanre Arogundade joins us virtually, as well as Deborah Agbalama, because our correspondent at Channels Television, Rivers State. She also had a very terrible experience during the End Bad Governance in Port Harcourt, the Rivers State capital, and a senior photojournalist and reporter, Daily Independent newspaper, and chairman, Nigerian Union of Journalists, FCT Correspondents Chapel, Mr. Jide Oyekunle. Ladies and gentlemen, you're welcome to the Morning Brief.
Thank you.
Well, Deborah, you're not new to the Morning Brief, so the welcome is not really for you. But let me begin with Mr. Arogundade, because you've covered events from the military era, from the June 12th struggle and the rest. And I wonder for you, how do you place what you saw happen in the past few days in context of other events, either during the military era or otherwise? How are you internalizing it, Mr. Arogundade?
Well, it's been quite difficult to internalize what has happened, because for me, we had new dimensions of restriction or even assault on the rights of journalists to perform their work during a national emergency. I said so because I said this advisedly So you take the example of the TV crew that were at Lekki Toll Gate on the first day of action in the expectation that some of the protesters might come there. And they said, this was a live reporting, that, the police told them not to interview anybody at all, not even a passers-by, So, and they were saying that, well, our duty is to, talk to people and ask them questions, whether they are protesters or no protesters. And they said, no, you cannot. You cannot interview anybody, because if you do that, one or two people might gather and so on. That for me was a totally new development, something unprecedented, that you begin to tell journalists how to do their work. And then we had other dimensions of these assaults. We had about 4 types of assault in the course of these protests. The first I've already mentioned, and it also included direct assault by security agents or journalists who had actually identified themselves. And, some were, shot at close range, with tear gas. A female journalist was injured in that process in Abuja. And that's one level. The other level is still by the security agents preventing journalists from doing their work. And this happened at the National Stadium, which was an approved, venue for the protest, at least at the level of the law court, where, journalists were ordered out, and at the stage, they were molested. The second one is direct, molestation by, security agents. Then the third one is molestation by anti-protest, protesters. In other words, people who are favorably disposed, to the government, who really saw journalists as part of the protesters, probably, and as enemies, and then, assaulted them. So at the end of the day, we're looking at so many instances of attacks on journalists across the country, during the protests, which meant that people never appreciated the role that journalists play in this kind of, situation. I should also mention that journalists were also, arrested in a place like Cross River in Calabar. Jonathan Ubai of Cross River Watch was arrested before it was later, released. To me, yes, we've had attacks on journalists during protests and so on, but the dimension that this took was really, really unprecedented. And the final one I should mention as part of this opening remark was the attack on the News Central TV crew in Lagos. Now, they were assaulted by those people called, thugs, because they went to Ojota in the expectation that probably protests might still take place. And then this assault came, and there were police officers and men stationed there. They were right there. And they just looked the other way and allowed the thugs to have a free reign. These are just major threats, the kind of which we had never seen before. And I don't want to begin to talk about military era and so on and so forth, because we knew what journalists went through, and it's really, really disturbing. We are really confounded. And we're wondering where this kind of development will lead us.
All right, let's go to Port Harcourt. Deborah, yours was, I think, just barely 48 hours or so ago. Maybe you can walk us through exactly what played out, because I understand you went to the Federal Secretariat area on a bar road and something played out. Maybe so that for context for our audience, so they can understand exactly what happened.
Okay, thank you, Joe. Good morning to you and the other crew members. It was 2 days ago, like you said, 48 hours. I think thereabout. Normally, Port Harcourt has been really peaceful. The police do not actually take sides. They are there to protect the protesters. And they've been really professional. I must give them the credit in the whole 6 days before my experience that day. And I hear that things have gone back to normal yesterday as well. Anyway, that morning, I got to the protest ground. They usually take off from the Federal Secretariat front there. So they will cluster, they will gather there, and then from there, they now go to other parts of Port Harcourt. Just like every other day, I arrived, and then there were the presence of the police, heavy presence of the police. And so I asked why are the protesters not standing in front of the Secretariat? They told me, that they are still gathering. one of the policemen replied me and pointed opposite direction for me, that's where they are gathering now. They are waiting there for others, so I should go and meet them there. And so I was walking towards them, so I had to cross about 4 lanes to get to them. I crossed the first one, and instinct just told me, take your shot from here. I stopped, and I started taking footage. I took the shot, and after taking this shot, I turned to now capture the policemen to establish that, on the contrary from what we have before, they are now gathering opposite while the police alone is in front of the secretariat. As I turned, the next thing I saw were a group of young men just surrounded me. And then their numbers begin to multiply. It turned from 3 to 4, 5. Before I know what's happening, I was in between over 10 guys, 10 men, so they clustered around me, and I'm like, any problem? They said, yes. Why are you taking footage of us? Why you do film us? And I told them that, well, I'm here to do my job. I'm a journalist. And I've been covering the protests. We've not had any issues. Are you not a protester? They said, no, we're not protesters. So we're here to ensure that no protest happens. One of them tried to slap me. I said, why are you behaving like this? Why would you want to hit me? What have I done wrong to you? I said, please don't do this. He said, okay, if you don't want us to manhandle you now, just open your tab and give us the footage. One of them tried to grab my tab. I held on to it. We struggled a bit. I said, please, can you let go of my tab, please? Whatever you want, I will do for you. What do you want? They said, okay, open the videos you've shot today. I went there. They said, they started watching. They watched the first one, second one. They said, okay, delete these 2. One of them put their hands and deleted. And then they said, we need you to go to your recycle bin because it will still be there. You have to delete it there as well. And so I obeyed. I opened the recycle bin for them. One of them tapped on it and deleted the video. This was when they said that you're lucky you're a woman. If not, by now your eyes would have been swollen. Or you have to get out of here, start living here immediately. And all these things took about 5 to 6 minutes. The police were actually standing there and they did nothing. Nothing to help. They basically led me into those guys because I asked them, where are the protesters? They pointed where those guys are. And the thing is, when I got to my car, one of the passerby around there came to me because as soon as I got to my car and entered, it's tinted. So I noticed that another protester that just arrived was getting beaten by these same men, these same suspected thugs, was getting beaten by, they were beating him up already. One of the passerby now came to my window, knocked. And then I went down a little bit and he said, madam, please just leave here now. I said, why? He said, because these policemen have been here and they witnessed these thugs beating up people. Right. They're beating up 2 protesters and it was really done to them. So it was at that point that I knew I had to drive away. I drove off and I got to the Commissioner of Police, River State, because it was strange because we've had a smooth sail with this whole protest.
Okay.
In Port Harcourt.
Deborah, just a moment. Yeah. We'll come to the reaction of the police and whether or not they've been able to arrest those thugs, those responsible for what you went through. Nobody should have to go through that, not even a woman in a line of duty. But I'd like us to get Mr. Oyekunle's experience as well, who joins us from our Abuja studio. He's a senior photojournalist in the Porter Daily Independent newspaper. I know that we also had incidents in Abuja. Mr. Ruminati talked about the tear gas canister hitting journalists and some of them being harassed. So tell us your own side of events. Oyekunle.
Thank you very much. It is quite unfortunate that the media and civic space is becoming suffocating, dangerous, toxic, and hostile on a daily basis. And this act of impunity was actually carried out by the FCT Commissioner of Police himself, Mr. Bennett Ingwe. And the reason all this is happening is because of the intolerance posture of Nigerian government and its officials to the criticism and dissenting voices. Yeah. I was one of the victims in Abuja. The Commissioner of Police led the operation at the Eagle Square and his men, where he assaulted, harassed, and ordered my arrest while covering the protests. We were at the Eagle Square. Many of the journalists were there covering the protests. You know, when you are covering protests, there are some security tips that you need to take to consideration. We were inside. We are with the police because we don't want to be at the other side of the scene in order to avoid maybe stray bullets or whatever, or the tear gas canister. So we were with the police and we were covering the protests when they were firing the tear gas at the protesters. When we were standing at the Federal Secretariat with the other journalists, both local and foreign journalists, the Commissioner of Police himself walked down to me and he told me that, why am I covering the protests? Why am I at the Eagle Square? That he has told us not to come to Eagle Square. I said, we are journalists. We are covering the protest. We are doing our normal duty. He said no, that he will charge me for trespass for covering the protest at the Eagle Square. I said, sir, we are journalists. We are doing our job. He said I should bring my phone. He ordered for my phone. I don't want to argue. I gave him my phone. And he said, arrest him. Take him away. In the process, he personally held my neck and he dragged me to himself and he handed me over to the armed policemen around. So in the process, they were dragging me like a common criminal, and it took the intervention of the other journalists who were at that at the scene, who shouted on top of their voices that no, he's a journalist. It's not a protester. What was his offense? Why are you arresting him? We will not allow this. So it took the intervention of my colleagues before they stopped that illegal arrest. And also the PRO of the FCT Police Command, that's SP Josephine Hardy, who also was at the scene. But where she was standing, she had to run and said, "I know this is a journalist. Why are you arresting him?" The officer that was holding me said that it was the CP that ordered his arrest. She said yes. She went to the CP, and I told her, I said, my phone is still with the CP because the Commissioner of Police himself collected my phone and put it in his pocket, and my phone was with him throughout of that day for almost 8 hours. So at that point, to me, I think the act, it was an affront on democracy. It was an affront on press freedom because it was a clear indication to suppress, to muzzle, and to stifle the media. And we have been saying it all this while that journalism is not a crime. Journalism is for the positive change and development of any democratic society.
Indeed.
There is need to remind our security agents that press freedom, freedom of expression, and peaceful assembly, these are inalienable rights that have been stipulated and enshrined in the Constitution in Section 39, Section 22, and Section 40 respectively.
Yeah.
But in a situation whereby security agents are trying to muzzle and to suppress media while carrying out their statutory and constitutional duty, this is not good for the democracy.
So, pardon me. You're making a very valid point. It calls to question then whether law enforcement agents know the law that they're trying to enforce themselves, because it is clearly written there in black and white. It is taken for granted that law enforcement agents are meant to take a course in what the law says before they now enforce the law. So clearly they're not enforcing the law. So if Mr. Bennett Igwe, the Commissioner of Police in the FCT, actually arrested you, ordered your arrest, kept your phone, and afterwards the spokesperson of the police command, Joseph Nade, whom you said waited in, now put out a statement saying that you are taken away for your safety, when we clearly saw in those images how you were manhandled, how you were treated like a criminal, as you said, then lots of questions need to be answered by the commissioner himself, and more importantly, the commissioner, by the way, and then the men who carried out that act. But we've seen what a commissioner of police did in the FCT. Let's see what another commissioner of police did in Rivers State. We'll come to Mr. Arogudade in a moment, but Deborah, so what was the action of the commissioner of police in Rivers State after what happened to you?
Well, he quickly rang me back because I tried to reach him at first, and then I sent him a text explaining what I had encountered. And he quickly rang me back and said, "Where did this happen?" I said, Federal Secretariat. He said, in the next 30 minutes, he'll be there. That he doesn't understand what is going on, as he never at any point in time instructed his men to behave like that. And they ought to behave professional. So he quickly got to the venue of this particular incident, which is at the Presidential Federal Secretariat front. And then he queried the men there and then promised that he was going to investigate what really played out, why they would be here, and allow protesters be beaten up, or even allow these thugs or suspected thugs to surround me like that, harass me for minutes without helping me out. But eventually he also gave concerns that in the last 2 days that the protesters have been sort of mixed up by thugs, and these thugs have been destroying things. So perhaps there was need for the coordinators of the protest to begin to watch the crowd that's mixing into the protest. He apologized to me for the inaction of his men, and then promised to investigate and punish whoever it is that was at fault on that day. He's still yet to get back to us on that. Anyway, the next day, to show that he really meant what he said, protesters gathered yesterday in front of the Federal Secretariat. And, well, I heard they didn't quite go round the city like before, but they were there in the morning time when I passed by, out of fear of whether these thugs would still be there, because I had gone on air to narrate my experience. I didn't actually stop by yesterday. I would need more reassurance from the CP before I can go there again. So that's what it is. But the CP intervened, and unlike the incident in Abuja by the CP there, this particular CP seems to be humane and sort of tries to keep a balance. And to give him the credit, throughout this protest, he had tried to, I think he's part of the reason the protesters have been really peaceful, because they don't also want to give him issues. He came the first day, he spoke to them, he appealed to them. The second day he came again, and this time around he gave them water, drinks, and refreshment, biscuits, and begged them, please keep on being peaceful. We don't want this rowdy. You have the right to peaceful protest, but don't obstruct others, So that is actually the situation in Rivers State, to be candid.
All right, let's take it to Ms. Arogundede. CP Tinjudisu was in Lagos, I think RRS. So he has an experience when it comes to all of these things, as well as during the NSAS protest. I know at some point they were called the good guys, the good cop in Lagos. So Ms. Arogundede, you can see it's a mixed bag of reaction. But worrying, as my colleague Kayode has said, is if the Commissioner of Police doesn't understand basic tenets of the law, what does that leave us? Because the young man who is in our Abuja studio clearly stated, with the intervention of his colleagues, that this is a journalist. And then the CP, for whatever reason, is quoting whatever law from wherever he got the law. What does that leave at the level of CP, that you don't understand basic tenets of this engagement?
Well, this conversation started with a question from, Kayode to me, and asking me if we were to compare with, the military period, what can we say about what we're going through now? And, listening, of course, we already documented these attacks, and listening to our colleagues, personally narrating their experiences, I would just say, like lawyers say, I'm not a lawyer. It's a case of resa ipsa loquitur. The facts speak for itself. Because we're dealing with a mindset, and I think what we saw in all this is the mindset that journalists should not be allowed to project what was happening. And apparently, one way or the other, different methodologies were, deployed to ensure that, these protests, journalists will not bring them, to public light. And the media is not the organizers of the protest. And like they have rightly said, the duty of the media is to report, events for the benefit of all, so that government itself would actually know what is going on. In Lagos, because we'll be talking about Commissioner of Police, I must also say that Kayode Akintemi, the managing director of News Central, actually embarked on a one-man protest to the office of the Commissioner of Police. He went there and met with the Commissioner of Police and said, this was what your men did. They looked the other way. Why my crew, why my media colleagues from my organization were being attacked? And he also said, well, some apology would look, into this. In those days of student unionism, we used to talk about, dogs would bark and bite. Rats would bite and blow fresh air on it. So we should also be very careful the way we are, thanking, praising after damage had been done, because you could see that this could also not have been done if. Let's concede that in the case of Rivers, the Commissioner of Police didn't know. In the case of Lagos, they didn't know. What we are now demanding is the outcome of that investigation. Who were these police officers or men who looked the other way? What have you done? What measures have you taken? How have you, sanctioned them? Because it's quite deliberate from what we saw.
My apologies, sir. As you're wrapping up your thought, I want you to speak to add to the fact that this particular one in Abuja has to do with the CP. So who is going to correct the CP that doesn't understand what is going on?
I was coming to that because there's hierarchy in the police. So at the level of Abuja, there has been, we have this weighty, allegation backed with evidence that we have seen so far that the CP was personally involved. In that wise, we're calling on the Inspector General of Police. So it's not as if we're quite, helpless. So at the level of the state, yes, the Commissioner of Police, but where the Commissioner of Police is involved, what we want to hear from the Inspector General of Police through the spokespersons, what have they done? Have they really questioned, the CP for this, kind of act? Because it sets a very, very, dangerous, precedent. And I do not think it's a good advertisement for this government or any other government whatsoever. Because we're in the global world. This program is being listened to in different parts of the world. They are seeing journalists saying a Commissioner of Police was personally responsible. I do not know any other form of bad advertisement for a government than that. And this really should be looked, into. There has to be, and we've been on this for a long time. We've had dialogue, we've had sessions where the first PRO was present, when we talked about, the need for us to, put in place, mechanisms, because the security men know that journalists will troop out, because this is a news event, it's a national event, it's a public interest event. It's not about taking sides. It's about something was going to happen. The notice for the protest was like 3 weeks or so before August 4th. Government itself was making pronouncements. They were saying, we'll prevent violence. In Lagos, there was parade of policemen and soldiers and so on. So everybody knew that something of national importance, of national interest was coming up. And of course, journalists cover them. Journalists also cover the police, cover their beats. So why are you, suddenly turning against them in the process of protest? So they knew that journalists would come out. And for me, the duty, my colleague there from Abuja was alluding to constitutional responsibilities. There are so many international conventions and frameworks about the protection of journalists in moments of crisis. Nigeria, for crying out loud, is part of United Nations. We're signatory to the African Charter on Peoples and Human Rights. It's actually part of our constitution. The president
Right.
is the chairman of ECOWAS. There are also ECOWAS protocols on protection, of journalists. So there are so many, frameworks that nobody can claim ignorance as to what should be, their responsibilities. And I think going from here, these things should just stop, because it doesn't really speak well. Indeed.
Mr. Orogunade, we will talk to seeking redress, ensuring that for every infraction, there's how do they say it, equal and opposite reaction to that. Because the law provides for these things. If the law says when you commit a crime, this is what shall happen, everybody should be under the law. Nobody should be the law or a law to himself or herself. Institutions should be stronger than individuals. So we'll come to you to wind down on that point on seeking redress, so that these things do not happen again while journalists are in their line of duty, and also the rights of journalists when doing their job. So people out there will know, and security operatives will know, just in case they didn't know. But let me quickly ask Mr. Oyekunle, rather, has there been any sort of apology, redress in that light? And what has that done to you in light of you doing your work? Have you been cowed, or you have more impetus, more courage to go out there and do your work, Mr. Oyekunle?
Yeah. Just what I've said, the commissioner of police was miffed because the journalists are covering that protest. And it is not only me that was attacked in Abuja. The Premium Times reporter he sustained injury on his head, and the AIT crew was also attacked, and a lady from Mary from New Central. But so far, there was no any apology. Rather, the police issued a very, very laughable statement that they took me to a safer place, while I did not even complain that I was under any threat. I think the situation so far, I'm just the way everything is going. There is need to remind the Nigerian government that they have that moral and legal responsibility to protect the fundamental right of every Nigerian citizen and freedom of expression, and that of freedom of press, because Nigeria is a signatory to the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, Article 9, and that of Article 19 of Universal Declaration of Human Rights. So the attitude of the Nigeria police and the security agents in Abuja during the coverage of this protest is nothing to write home about. And the safety of journalists is not negotiable. For now, I want to tell you that as I'm talking to you, I have not been I've not been feeling fine because of the trauma, the psychological and emotional trauma that I passed through. And I want to tell you that we are not going to abdicate our responsibility as journalists, because we are going to protect and uphold the fundamental objective of the Constitution and hold government accountable to the people as stipulated in Chapter 2 of the Constitution. Because if democracy is all about good governance, accountability, and transparency, the freedom of press should not be curtailed. It should not be denied, and it should not be taken away by the government or the security. So rather, we'll continue to do our job. We will not give up, because that is what we actually are signed to do as a journalist, and to speak for the people of the country.
All right, let's take it back to, Deborah, I want to come to you in a moment, but let's take it back to Mr. Orogunade, winding down to speak to the issues of rights and responsibility, as well as what punitive measures are necessary to give us a better optics, because this optics right now is really bad, both for the CP who conducted himself in the manner he did, and for the officers as well. But to provide context to how some of the law enforcement have characterized this in responding, the Chief of Defense Staff had actually said he was even frowning literally at the fact that journalists were giving them mileage. He even said some people this is not election, that were giving that kind of coverage. And where some of us responded and said, sir, with due respect, do your job, let us do our job. That's on one hand. The IGP came and denied or saying that the police did not kill or did not use live ammunition. It hasn't provided evidence to the contrary, but people died. It is the police responsibility to explain to Nigerians how people died. He had promised that they will deploy body cam. Body cam evidence to show whether police use live ammunition or not, we haven't seen. But we've seen videos across board. So I want you to speak to some of these punitive measures that are necessary in the immediate to deter law enforcement officers not to take laws into their hands and really do the work of protecting people, especially journalists who are also doing their jobs.
So we're at the level now where we're looking at the hierarchy of the police, and obviously a lot of responsibilities would lie on the office of the Inspector General of Police. But because the IG himself came out and said nobody was killed, and evidences are being shared to the contrary, it then means that we're in a situation where we're actually calling on the higher levels in the security apparatus, perhaps the office of the National Security Advisor, for them to recognize that this is a big problem we have. It does not give a good image, and there has to be a mechanism of investigation. Perhaps I think we can look in the direction of an independent investigation, so that everybody that is accused one way or the other could have an avenue to state their case. A kind of public inquiry that perhaps involves the judiciary, the bar association, the civil society, the youth movement, the women, coming together to say that let's have a real public investigation into this. And doing that would really go a long way, because the dimensions are really are many from the accounts we've had. And by the time you listen to other journalists, you really be wondering why we're in this kind of situation and how we have found ourselves in this kind of situation. So for me, I feel that we're at that level where we need a form of truth, and justice, commission, a mini Puta panel, if you want to put it that way, that can allow this, because we're talking of media, press freedom. We're also talking of civic space, because some of these protesters too, were arrested and different things happened. We're also talking of thugs, apparently in some cases sponsored, attacking journalists and security agents, looking the other way. But that, of course, is still the police that we're going to, call upon. But moving away from here, I feel that that national mechanism we'll be talking about the protection and safety of journalists, right, is something that we can no longer run away from. Right. We need to have that. We need to have a national policy and disabuse the minds of those in authority. That you see, for me, right, I do not even think they are connecting with current trends in the world. Because when you say this is not election, this is protest, you cannot cover it. They should also not forget that individuals, onlookers, the protesters are armed with communication gadgets. So even if you prevent the conventional media from doing their work, these things are all over the social media.
Well, Mr. Arugunade.
And then when it comes to social media, you now say, well, it's fake news and so on. The conventional media, the television stations, the broadcast media, the print media, the online media that can bring credible and reliable information.
Well, Mr. Arugunade.
When you do that, you allow disinformation, right, misinformation, and the situation gets messier.
Well, if anything,
I know we can all the measures here, yeah, but we are dealing with a serious matter, and everybody should take this very, very seriously. At
well, if anything, this has given us a shot in the arm, Mr. Arugunade, to keep doing our work. But we're winding down now.
Short.
Yes. Just a moment, just to wind down, I'd like us to get the final thoughts of Deborah on this one. Deborah, your final thoughts on this, particularly in the line of duty.
Okay, well, for Rivers State, because this is where I am, I want to just focus here while I touch the other national issues mentioned about press freedom. So for Rivers State,
I think in 30 seconds, but go ahead, please.
Okay, well, for Rivers State, I think that it's important also for the protesters to have coordinators, because in the last 2 days before the incident that happened, I also noticed that during the procession, thugs would come at some point. There was a particular point where the thugs destroyed the cubicle used for traffic control in one of the areas. So the thing is, the CP has a point that the protesters should be more organized. Where are their leaders? They should be always with them so that they can coordinate the movement and ensure no infiltration. However, what happened to me is actually appalling, and the trauma was bad, and it shouldn't happen to anybody, not a journalist, not a protester,
right?
Because it is their right, just as it is their right to vote, it is their right to protest against anything they feel is not in line with what they voted.
Right.
And well, it's so long as they do this peacefully, I think that the police should allow both press freedom and the protesters to go about protesting peacefully. My last thoughts on it.
Just as we'll go about doing our work. Deborah, we have to let you go now because I know you have a busy day ahead doing what you love to do. Deborah Agbalama, Channels TV correspondent, River State, thank you for your time. We've also been speaking with Mr. Jide Oyekunle, senior photojournalist, a reporter, Daily Independent newspaper. He's also chairman of the NUJ FCT Correspondents Chapel. Thank you for your time as well as Mr. Larry Arugundadi, veteran journalist and executive director, International Press Center. We thank you and wish you the very best.
Thank you very much.
We'll take a break now, and when we return, we'll turn our attention to what's playing out with the Nigeria Labour Congress, the NLC, particularly the incident at its headquarters. That's in a moment. Stay with us.
Welcome back. We're now shift gears to what played out at the headquarters of the Nigeria Labour Congress in Abuja, where we understand from the statement of the union or the Congress that security operatives, they mentioned the police and the people they suspect to be the DSS invading their premises and did some raid, cutting away books and a couple of things, and even mentioned the fact that they were looking for seditious materials in relation to the end bad governance process. So that is a side of the labor union. But the DSS has come out to say we were not part of that raid. The police, to the best of our knowledge, hasn't spoken yet. So we have joining us on the program, the head international relations, Nigeria Labour Congress, Comrade Uche Ekwe, joins us from Abuja studio. Comrade Ekwe, good to see you again, sir.
Yeah, good morning.
All right, walk us through, for the benefit of everyone, what exactly happened, because we've seen the statement, maybe not everyone has been able to read that statement, perhaps just seeing the headlines. What played out by 8:30 on that particular day?
Yeah, if you remember that particular day, we had our National Executive Council meeting, which was an emergency one, via Zoom. That meeting reviewed the protests going on, and we paid particular attention about harassment of course, workers, because the journalists that harassed our workers and members of our organization, killings of citizens by shooting of live ammunition, bullets. We reviewed arrests and detentions that are lasting more than 24 hours. So we did all that review and made calls that decent approach to protest must be carried out, and that the president, we repeated our call, the system should dialogue with the leaders of the protest, and that protesters should be treated with dignity. So we issued that statement. We finished the meeting, we left the office, only to get distress call from our security officer about 8:39 that the security operatives came to the 10th floor. The labor house had up to 10 to 11, 12 floors, and picked him up and took him to a particular office. Bear in mind, the 10th floor is the office of the president. where the president and general secretary stays. And the doors were already locked because everybody have gone home. Then they commandeered the security on duty to the second floor and asked him to open some doors. And of course, he didn't have the key to those doors. And they broke open the doors, took away books and all that. And that's what happened. And for us, we're finding it difficult to understand what's going on. The denial of the DSS and no statement from the police makes it even more ridiculous that now, if the NLC Secretariat could be so discreted and harassment method on it, and nobody owns up, but it was security agents, and nobody knows those who did it.
Right. Comrade Ekwe, it's quite curious, really. If they carted away books, you wonder, are they trying to build a library or they're trying to start a book club? I mean, it's really curious. So when you say that, well, the denial from the DSS and lack of statement from police even is more curious, what have you found out about these men? Have you been able to pin them to a certain security agency? Could they be non-state actors? What exactly do you know from the questions you've asked around?
Yeah, the security is there. Apart from the particular security of the NLC, the other security people in the compound, those outside who are not right inside the office, all knew that they were police and DSS people. They saw them. There are many security people in the compound that night. Over 7 of them to 10 cannot be unable to identify police and security agents. They saw them, they know them, they came with vehicles, they drove out. But of course, they couldn't know the numbers and all those, but they know they are police. In fact, I'm sure they couldn't imagine that there will be denials. But even if they do, what could they do? Could they arrest the official security system? On our own part, because we don't know what has happened there, we've not gone to our office. Because we don't know whether things have been planted against us. We don't know what is up there. We are not working from our office. We have stayed out of the office because we can't understand that. This is a system that knows that if we are going to do anything, we make our statement public. We issue statements. We give government notice in writing. We are not individuals. We are not faceless people. Our positions are known. We write each time we want to do. Every document we have written vis-a-vis government policy, we give to the government themselves officially. So we don't keep, if it is when we are going to do bulletins, we share it on the road. If we are going to do handbills, we share it. We don't hide our position on any matter.
All right, Mr. Ekwe. So a few more questions. Is the building, the Labour House, do you guys have CCTV?
Yeah, well, you can know that we are not that very wealthy organization that can maintain such expensive things. The CCTV at times work, at times it doesn't work, because we don't have the fund to maintain such things. And we're normal people.
Yeah,
so it doesn't really matter to us.
Yeah, Mr. Ekwe, now that this has happened, I think it's now imperative that the budgeting system of the Labour has to factor this in, because that is one of the strongest evidence to provide maybe in courts if anybody is denying involvement or otherwise. But To follow up on that, have you reached out? Is the place, the office, for instance, are there security agencies there? Have you approached the police to find out their position? Because the DSS has come out to say we're not the ones, the men you say that came, that were wearing t-shirts, they are not our guys. The police hasn't said anything. Have you approached the police?
Well, we issued our statement. We have written the system to say our office was invaded. That's the best we can do.
No, I'm talking
about... I told you, we have not even assessed the office. As I said, we've not even assessed the office. Because we have to stay away. We don't know the intention. Why somebody should come to office by 8:30. No office works by that time. Even if you have a suspicion of any documentation in the office, you come when we are there. We are there. We're always there. Why come in the night? And let's take it. So up to now, the Nigerian Labour Congress is not enough an organization that the security system should go all out and find what happened in that place. Is that what the system is telling us?
Well, comrade, so let's dive deeper, or at least dig deeper if we can. So it's also been said by the statement that they were looking for seditious materials, possible seditious materials in relation to the End Bad Governance protest. Has the NLC been involved in any way with this End Bad Governance protest? Why will these men, I don't know if to call them unknown men now, or at least, as you said, police and possibly the DSS, why would they be looking for seditious materials at the NLC headquarters if you weren't a part of the protests? Or were you?
Yeah, well, thank you. I mean, in our position is very clear on this thing. We wrote government formally. We issue statement. If we're part of the protest, we make it open. We don't hide when we are doing protests. And when we held meeting on that same day, we reviewed the protest. It's a meeting of our National Executive Council, all the state councils. We reviewed it. And we made a public, a formal communique on our position on it. If we were to be part of the protest, it will be known. We'll make it clear. We are not part of the protest. But we are saying Nigerians have the right to protest. We have even done protests on the same matter, if you remember, in the past. Or on the cost of living, stopping hunger. We have raised issues. Of course, most of the issues the people are raising, we've done our own in over 20 years. We've warned about the danger of the regulation without local production. We've done all those. So for us, we are just sitting down there watching for the first time. And
all right,
for us,
all right, Mr. Ekwe, just maybe in 1 minute, what do you suspect? Because I'm sure your intelligence team, I know you're not law enforcement, you're labor union, but so many things will be going through the mind of the leaders, whether you're now working from home mandatorily now because of your concern for your own safety. What do you think is going on?
Yeah, honestly, we find it difficult to fathom what is going on. We don't want to think, is there people trying to possibly attack labor leaders? Are there some segments of the system who, because if we are it becomes even more dangerous that if unknown gunmen will start operating in the central area of Abuja without security people identifying them, and why the choice of Nigerian Labour Congress as a place to operate. Those are the things that is going through our mind. Who wants to attack the Nigerian Labour Congress? Let's say it's not the government. Why can't the government, the security system of the country, defend an organization like the Nigerian Labour Congress? Those are questions going in our mind.
Okay. Definitely we will need answers to those questions. We're hopeful that this is almost over 24 hours after that incident. The police hasn't spoken. Well, we'll stay hopeful to hear what at least let the police come and defend themselves. The DSS has defended it, denied it. We've not heard from the police. So we're hopeful that the police will speak on this particular issue. We must thank you, Comrade Uche, Uchenna Ekwe, Head International Relations, the Nigerian Labour Congress. And stay safe out there. Thank you, sir, for coming on the program.
Thank you very much.
We'll take a quick break and we'll come back to the softer side of things. And this time we're going to Port Harcourt to talk to the guy that calls himself the mayor of Pitakwa. K.O. Baba joins us next after this break. Join us again.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to be very honest with you, straight to the point. You know, the people where they are useful, these are the kind of people that should be outside, and then you post the outside. Something do regular, that free ticket, they can enter. You don't post now on Facebook, we're outside, now the land of some, I reply and now. Say, stay outside, I don't lock your door. I don't know who formed this for Catholic girl. They speak in the spirit, on top of the LIS doing pass happening with it, they call her Paul. I mean, one girl on post on Facebook, I just passed away. Normally, I say, I don't comment. Oh yeah, rest in peace. Speak English when you listen. I met four girls one day at West Market. I see the person what's your name, Maureen. I don't know what's your name, Harry. What's your name, Catherine? The fourth one was just don't think things. You want me to match, she said you rain. Now, maybe the advice that, do you know that you really need peace? My mama said I was very peaceful when they did better. What do you know they form? What do you know they form?
All right, let's give you something to smile about, right? It's been a long week, in fact, long 2 weeks here in Nigeria. So every glimmer of hope here, joy there, it is very important. We have joining us, as you've seen there, K.O. Baba Johnson. Well, you know him as the mayor of Pitakwa. He's a stand-up comedian, and he joins us virtually on the program this morning. Welcome to the Morning Brief, Mayor of Pitakwa.
Yeah, good morning.
I saw you laughing at your jokes. You know, your jokes have to be that good for you to even laugh at it after you've written, delivered, and you're hearing it again. But clearly, there are no protests happening in Pitakwa as a mayor of Pitakwa, so I'm sure you're excited about that. But that your material was targeting women, ladies. What do you have against ladies?
No. Okay, first thing, I'm pro-women. A lot of my materials are pro-women.
Right.
Of course, yes. But that particular material was about women. I don't like too much funny. You too, you don't like too much funny. Just trying to tell them that no fun. That is that level. But most of my content are pro-women. Everybody said, yo, you too, they support women with your jokes. And that's how I am.
All right, I had to do that on behalf of some ladies. Maybe some of them are guilty of those things that you said. Maybe that's why they felt attacked. But absolutely, it's good to see your body of work. And I've said it time and again that, well, a group of artists, well, pardon me to call you that I respect a lot, are comedians. Because the way you weave together issues to make people laugh in spite of their state of mind needs to be studied. Maybe you have a special place in heaven, you know, for making people forget about this. Sorry, but we want to know your story because we know there's a story behind the glory, right? So speak to us. What made you who you are today? Your life experiences, growing up, and all of those things. How did it come together to make you the mayor of Pitakwa?
So I'm a Dio boy. You've been in Port Harcourt, there's an area called Dio. Dio is like a Jeguli. So, but I didn't just move into comedy because I just started too young. And when I was anchoring events, I was doing the anchoring for free. At one point, I discovered that I was very spontaneous. I was good with making people laugh. Yes. I started my career working in a shipping company as a radio boy. Very good reading. So when the company was folding up, Amstan Shipping, some people will know that name because it was a big shipping company in Port Harcourt then. And I started doing motivational speaking. From motivational speaking, I was emceeing. When I was emceeing, I would make people laugh. And people would call me comedian and say, no, I'm not a comedian. I'm just funny. I got to a point I started, they were inviting me to do stand-up comedy. We don't want you to MC. We want you to come make people laugh 5 minutes, 10 minutes. And they're not paying. Sometimes it's free. Sometimes they give you food, you eat. I was doing my thing until on a particular day I had a call to MC a wedding. And I said, okay, give me 10,000. They said, no, 1,000. I said, no, 2. They said 5. I said, no. They said 4. I said 3. They said 3. So my first paid job was 3,000 naira. Fast forward to many years after, I do more, like 300 times that amount. Like by the grace of God, I do 7 figure at this point. The beauty of it is in doing comedy too. I was a comedian for many years. Nobody was putting me on their platform. So what I did was, as a comedian, I started doing shows and events. And I started using a hall that I paid just 10,000 naira. I didn't even pay. Man, to buy for 5,000 or so. But right now, I built a comedy brand. My style of comedy is clean and classy. That's why most churches in Port Harcourt, most companies in Port Harcourt, they prefer my styles because it's clean and it's classy. Right now, we host the biggest stand-up comedy show in Port Harcourt. We use an event center that is 5,000 capacity fee. Our tickets are, somebody said I have the most expensive ticket because some of my table tickets are as much as 5 million naira. And people pay for it. I don't know why they pay because of comedy or they pay because I do a lot of community service, activism, and youth empowerment. But I can tell you that the journey has not been smooth, but it has been very, very successful.
All right, Gil. So normally, most of the time, when we see big names in the entertainment and creative industry, it's always about mostly Lagos. But you stuck to your guns and you decided to stay in the garden city of Port Harcourt, pulling your craft and all of that. Maybe you tell us the secret why you decided to just say, look, you guys can go to your Lagos and do your thing, but I'll be here and I'll do my thing. And I'll be here and go global. So tell us how you do it and what the challenges are.
Okay, Jeff, you were with us too. You ran away, and okay. For me, my Portuguese would say, boss, you have odophobia. Like, I'm not someone who likes to travel, but I'm also not satisfied with the point that when you get to a level in Port Harcourt, you have to move to Lagos. It's always Lagos. So it was a personal decision for me that I want to stay in Port Harcourt. Now, staying in Port Harcourt, I've been able to raise other comedians, raise musicians. In fact, I have a brand, Gems of Pitakwa. I have a lot. I recently started a talent factory. We call it Alcoholic Talent Factory. And what we do, we train actors, actresses, PRO people, and it's for free. Wanting to stay in Port Harcourt is because I am passionate about seeing the region, South Niger Delta, have its own visibility, have people who can create and entertain from this region. Now, the challenge is most times we do not get the kind of visibility that we get. It's just, that's why I love channels and a few other. You still know how to cover things from a part of the country, and it's unique. So the challenge is we don't get that much visibility. As I speak to you, my colleagues in Lagos will be on 10 TV stations right now. My colleagues in Port Harcourt, I'm likely the only one right now having this opportunity to speak on an international platform. And also in Port Harcourt, you don't get that corporate partnership. When you want to do an event in Port Harcourt, they say, send it to our Lagos office. Send it to our Lagos office. That's always the news. That's what we hear every time. Send it to our Lagos office. And we face that challenge. Some people talk about insecurity, but I don't see insecurity in Port Harcourt. Maybe because I'm an activist and somebody who knows how to engage people and do a lot of things. But I can say it's not been easy. And staying back in Port Harcourt, let me set this instance. Like, for instance, Dandy Humors is not in Port Harcourt anymore, and a couple of persons are not in Port Harcourt. It was easier for me to also have their client base patronize me sometimes as well. So I stayed back. I enjoyed a couple of things that others were not getting. I stayed back. I had the opportunity to develop great platforms for a lot of young talent. And as I speak to you now, I have entertainers, I have people who say, please, one day will you leave this town? Don't leave this town, because it's like a chain, value chain. A lot of things, a lot of people, a lot of careers, a lot of destinies are tied to some of the projects and events that I do.
Yeah.
So staying here for me is a blessing. It might not be financially, but in terms of social impact and trying to do things that profits humanity and the society at large here, that gives me joy.
And that's the beauty of pursuing your dreams. By doing that, you unconsciously give others permission to also shine, and then you light others with your own dream that you're pursuing, creating jobs, indirect jobs, and the rest. So it's good to hear. There are lots of things that we need to know about you. People are curious. What does Pitakwa mean? Is it a meal? Is it a slang? Is it just a word that means something? So you tell us that. That's one. Two, your name is very interesting. Your name is Johnson Johnson, right? So again, that's something people want to know. There are lots of things, but let's start with that, and then we'll come to your craft, how you put those content together and deliver. But first, Pitakwa. What does Pitakwa mean? And then, how did you come up with that very iconic name, Johnson Johnson?
Okay, so it's just like we call Nigeria and Niger. That's the same way we call Pitakwa. We call Port Harcourt Pitakwa. I was very small. The late Bomaire Kosima, the broadcaster, and somebody that was very influential to us as kids in Port Harcourt. It was the first person I heard that word from. When he does his pidgin English news, he will call Port Harcourt Pitakwa. So one day we sat down somewhere, my friends were complaining. Yes, we're Nigerians, so we are permitted to complain about some of the things that are happening in the government. And the then governor was planning to do a local government election. Well, my colleagues, my friends, Benudumo, and a couple of persons, they were telling me, and Baba, we want me to contest. I said, no, we're joking about it. I got home and then I got the graphics, vote K.O. Baba Johnson for mayor of Port Harcourt. And they posted it on Facebook. It was like viral, like fire. I was getting calls, we were sharing, I would vote this guy. He's not indigent, but he's very selfless and engaging. So when I saw that, I decided to change it to an event and a project instead of contesting the election, which is not, for me, was not my interest or passion. So I changed the Port Harcourt to Pitakwa, which is Mayor Pitakwa. And because I'm a comedian, I made it a comedy show. It was a subtitle for my comedy show. That particular edition of the comedy show was affected by COVID-19. So we moved it to the next year. I've paid for all, done publicity, a couple of things. It was affected. We moved it to the next year. And when we got to the next year, we had to even, it was no more a subtitle. It became the event proper. So guess what? We're still having that spread of COVID. There was lockdown, but a lot of people came for the event. There was lockdown because the event was supposed to be from 6 p.m. We moved the event to 2 p.m. Even at 2 p.m., if you know Aztec Outcome in Port Harcourt, then it was like it's the second largest hall in our city. And the show was successful. I finished the show. I had to go into charity from the blessings of the show. And people started calling me Mayor Pitakwa. And that's how I was able to craft and create that brand for myself. Or say, yes.
All right. So, yeah, that's why your name is Johnson Johnson. So in answering that as well, you help us also. Okay, maybe you answer that first before I come to my own question.
Maybe I'm dodging that question.
Okay, you're dodging the question.
So my name is Johnson. My family's name is Johnson.
Oh,
that's my family's name. My actual name, my dad gave me is Johnson, and then my family's name is Johnson. So we put them together as Johnson Johnson.
It sounds very foreign.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds really, really foreign. I'm only one family I've seen here answering the same surname. and they are English. They are not Nigerians as well. And Jeff, my name is Keo Baba, but my name Keo Baba is gotten from the word Koko. So people started calling me Keo. From Keo, when I started comedy, I was answering MC Keo. And one day I went for an event. A lady said, "Are you the MC?" "Yes." "What's the name?" I said, "MC Keo." "Okay, MC Keo Baba." And the Baba just came. Ali Baba was popping on my head, and a couple of Baba was. I just said, "Yes, let me start answering Keo Baba." That's it. For the Johnson, that's my family's name.
All right. Let's walk through your creative process. There are different people. There are different ways people get inspired to come up with their own content. What works for you? Some people need a space. Some people it's everyday life. Some people, there are various ways people get inspired. How does it work for you that you come up with your material?
Okay, what works for me is stay alone, stay indoors. One, I don't sleep. Okay, I don't eat, I don't sleep. I just take cook water. So most times in the night, if you chat me up and I'm awake, I'm like, I'm awake most midnight, like awake. I don't sleep. I do maybe 3-4 hours sleep per day. So when I'm awake, I think a lot. I'm intentional about it. I meditate. I can say, like I want to do now, a couple of things is happening with the protest. So what I'm going to do on Saturday and Sunday night, I will just be awake and meditating. What can I create from the protest that will make people laugh and they also see a message in it? I'm intentional with that. Number two, I'm a very spontaneous person. When I'm reading things and I sit down, I get an insight, I go to my notepad. And when I'm in church, my pastor is Pastor Larry Lucia of House on the Rock. So when he's preaching, it's very spontaneous and it makes us laugh. I hear people laugh and others are laughing. Me, when I'm laughing, I'm saying, how do I make this a joke? I just type on my notepad. I do that a lot. When I'm online too, sometimes I read a couple of things and then I take them and I try to create from them. That's how it works for me.
Interesting. So just imagine for a moment that this is your biggest show yet. You're performing for 200 million Nigerians. I know you've had your experiences, the good, bad, and the ugly, as a performer naturally. But right now, which is what it is, 200 million Nigerians are watching from different ethnic groups, different religions, different...
Are you sure we're not more than 200 million Nigerians?
There you go. So we're... until we do a census too. So what would be the perfect material for an audience like Nigeria? Because I know this is something you've also done a lot. Is there a material that you have that is perfect for Nigeria right now to make Nigerians smile? Nigerians need that, right?
If I want to do a material, it has to be political. If you travel abroad and then you see a legislator, you see a government person, and maybe our robbers wanted to rob the person and say, "Come, your life or your money. Give me your life or your money." And the guy said, "No, I'm a senator. You can't do this." "Okay, sorry. You make laws for us. You make our life better. Pass." In Nigeria, armed robbers stop somebody, say, "Come, your life or your money." Say, "No, you can't do this. You can't do this. I'm a senator. I'm a commissioner. I'm a governor. Your life or your money." I'm a senator. Okay, no problem. Your life or you give us our money because you know say. And I don't hold our money. So when they reach them, then they need to collect their money. Now they hold our money. So that's the perfect materials for them.
It just speaks to how comedians are. You have to be in touch with what's happening in the polity, because then your jokes will be flying over people's heads. Imagine you're talking about something entirely different when people are feeling things. So let me just ask you before Jeffrey comes in, do you feel that, or do you feel like you put in a lot more into your craft than other performers? I know there's been that beef between comedians and musicians. Say musicians will do the same material. In fact, people will be singing along with them. But you as a comedian, you have to keep reinventing your material, else they'll say, this one is stale.
Yeah, I think we do more than the musicians. We do more than the musicians. For us comedians, you must be updated. For us comedians, you must be like, sometimes I'm reading. Why am I reading something? I'm just reading so that if I'm cracking a joke about the economy, I want to give fact. Like, for instance, I was creating a material about federal government giving 100, saying they've released 570 billion. And I also saw a video of the Kano State governors brandishing wheelbarrow, and I'm looking at that. This morning I'm following up the same news because I'm not done with the material, and I'm hearing the governor of your state saying this money, no, the money we spend for COVID-19, then they return it. So you get that. And for us comedians, because I want to sound very intelligent and why I make people laugh, I will follow these updates very well. And not just that, for the musicians, one song. Duncan Mighty is my friend, and I can tell you that he's one of the most relevant musicians. Duncan has not dropped album for some few years now, but every time he gets on stage, Duncan gives you a good show because he's a musician. The same thing to a lot of them. Comedians, we are very careful. You can't go to a particular place, you crack the same joke again and again. Now, comedy has also gone wide. You're doing comedy, you're doing skits, you're doing shows. You don't just, for me too, you're doing charity. That's how it is for us. You're doing stand-up comedy, you're acting, skit and a couple of things. You're also hosting events, and not just in one city. Some of these events, we do it across borders, across cities. Not just that, you also know that as a comedian, you have to do charity and community service as well. We do it even much more than the musicians. So our workload heavy. The musicians are making a lot of money from streams, from maybe one music. For us comedians, from one joke, you cannot make that same money from streams. So it's difficult and tense for us as comedians.
All right, Keo.
The expectation is very high for us.
All right. So one more question for me is, you know, I was born in the city of Port Harcourt, so I have a lot of love for the city.
Yes.
What kind of future do you like to see, or would you like to see, for the creative space? So covering all of you, not just comedy, so that people can be like you. What I mean by that is people can stay back and develop. I know you accuse some of us of running away. We didn't run away. We're just expanding our frontiers.
Okay. Not just about comedy for the creative ecosystem in our city. What I want to see, I want us to enjoy more corporate partnership. I want us to enjoy some of the things I've seen the president talk about digital and creative economies fund, and most times when they say those things, you only get that fund in Lagos and in Abuja. We don't get those funds here, and it gives me a lot of concern. During the former president, you know what I do here most times is I scout for informations and then I spread it around because a lot of people look up to me as well. So I want us to enjoy that kind of access to informations and funds and resources that are available for the creative industry. I saw one, they said Providence Bank. I had to call the bank myself and I asked questions. And I can tell you for real, I don't want to discuss the feedback that I got when I called. It was just a case of far from the reality, from what we hear in the news. So I also want to see an industry where we are operating in Port Harcourt, in Bayelsa, across the region, and the media is giving us the kind of attention they are giving in Lagos, that kind of attention. When I host my event, when my colleagues host their events, they get a lot of media support. For us here, the media support is very, very minimal. Minimal or nothing.
And this is putting out word to all the stakeholders responsible. If we say that we want to give jobs, we want to build the economy, we need to pay attention to the creative sector and your subsector as well. So this is an SOS. And of course, we know that the stakeholders are listening. We'd like to thank you so much, Keo Baba. You have lots of names. Johnson Jansen, real name, that's for the check. Keo Baba, you know, for the comedy, and the mayor of Pitakwa. Thank you for your time on the show. Wish you the very best. Our regards to the citizens of Pitakwa.
Our people also encourage our government to pay attention to the entertainment sector.
Absolutely.
We are like the highest employers of labor across now.
Indeed.
The governors and all of the people across, they are not paying attention to entertainment and creatives, and that gap they need to bridge. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for your time. Well, there you have it, Jeffrey.
Absolutely. So
you ran from Port Harcourt.
I did not run.
I will not let you go.
I've been in many cities. I'm a global citizen.
There you go.
All right. So thank you so much for your time and, of course, your company. We wish you a very beautiful weekend. Make sure you take your time to rest and be like me. Try to sleep as much as you can. I'm Jeffrey Uzoma.
Don't forget, Sunrise Daily is next in just a few seconds. Stay with us right here on Channels Television. I'm Kyle Hewlett. Goodbye.